And we're talking to Ms. PRucker, who's the secretary of the task force that investigated learning in the metro schools, and Mr. Charles Etter, who's with the Youth Guidance Division, Youth Guidance Officer, who is assigned at Pearl Cone High School here in the city. Let me welcome both of you to Black Pulse.
Thank you.
Ms. Rucker, I think we've said quite a bit about the schools from the administrative and the professional point of view, but now we would like to say something about school violence from the, well, school safety rather, from the community point of view, and perhaps you would like to say something about that as a secretary of this task force.
Yes, I would. I would like to say that as a member of the task force, we really found out that the parents who were aware of what was going on in the schools felt that the schools were very safe. I think a number of times, out of not knowing what's going on in the school, people may feel that they are unsafe, but as it was stated prior, the schools are the safest place that a student can be during the day.
And of course, Mr. Etter, I would imagine from the youth guidance position, you might see that quite different. Do you find schools to be safe, or do you have problems as a youth guidance officer in the high schools?
Well, I don't have, we have problems, but I was first on the streets here in Nashville in patrol, and with the old, well, they had the blue and white, it's the white cruiser now, and I have less problems in the schools than I had out there on the street, so I don't perceive them as being unsafe.
Exactly what are the responsibilities for a youth guidance officer in the metro schools, and how generally do we find these officers in the school system?
Okay, first of all, there's some misconception that we are there to get people. Even some of the students think that we're a safety factor. We are there to work with children when they have, what Major Curry, who is over Youth Guidance Division, he said we're there to put out the fire before it starts, to work with a pre-delinquent child, oftentimes get with the principal or guidance counselor or teacher and work with staff before a problem. We're what was known the preventive unit. We're not there to just take a person for drugs or having a gun like most people think. We're not there for violence per se. We're there to assist in these type problems before the child becomes delinquent.
Again, are you the only person assigned as a youth guidance person at Pearl Cone, or do you find youth guidance officers in other schools throughout the city? Okay,
now, I'm the only one at Pearl Cone, but we do have one at every major or comprehensive school in the city now.
So that would be approximately, as a community person, 9 youth guidance officers.
11.
11 youth guidance officers assigned throughout the various schools throughout the city.
Right.
Very good. Now, what did your task force say in reference to that responsibility, Ms. Rucker?
That was one of the things that was a request on the surveys that were submitted to us, that youth guidance officers would be, as he said, a preventive measure rather than a police force, a threat. I think that the community the size of Nashville, we are as good as what you pay for. And the community of Nashville, once they understand that there are certain needs, because youngsters bring from the community the same needs they have at home, they bring them to school. And the school should not be an agency that solves all the social problems of a community. It has to be a joint venture. The community has to come in with the school, know the needs, help provide some of the resources for these needs. And we were very pleased that Major Curry and Mr. Frazier were able to do that with the youth guidance officers being placed in the major high schools. Once a community realizes that its byproduct is what you pay for, if you go to the store to buy a product, if you buy a cheap one, it doesn't last long. If you buy a good one, it lasts longer. So if we're willing to pay for education, we want the best education for our youngsters, the best environment for our youngsters, the community must come together as a whole to provide that.
Very well. Mr. Etter, from your point of view, looking at the very small percentage of youngsters who are disruptive within the school environment, what do you see as a possible solution? I think Dr. Hargis already indicated alternative schools, but do you see any other solution outside of the alternative school to deal with that very small group that might tend to make people believe that the schools are unsafe?
Okay, we in the police department usually say our hands are tied, and we come up with a lot of cliches like that, but we need to work jointly. This is with churches, PTAs, schools, and a lot of civic-minded people to get together and learn that policemen are people, children are people. A lot of people don't seem to realize this there, say, because, and the media, I know this is the media, one form, but the media, it's not news when a child makes a certain high score in school, but it is if that child brings a knife or a gun, and that you'd only think that's one child, but think of how many children come and they're doing what they're supposed to do. That's not news, but it's existing.
That was the purpose of your committee, and we've got about a minute before we end this program for tonight. And do you have a final word, Ms. Rucker?
Yes, I would like to say that I think the community needs to be educated about our schools, our needs. All of the agencies in the city should dovetail information that they have. We may not know what the problems of the Youth Guidance Office is. We may not know what the problems of another agency is, but I feel that with all of these agencies coming together, specifying what the problems and needs of our community is, the better our school system would be. We, the youngsters who come there, are a byproduct of our community.
Very well. And let me thank you and the two of you, as well as other members of the panel, for coming by and talking to us about this very important issue. And let me invite you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of the Black Pulse of Nashville.